Hi, this is Kevin, coming to you from Hideaway Homestead in Central Florida. We want to talk a little bit about what we call a get-home bag.
This is something that we learned about a few years ago in sort of survival practices, to have a bag that you keep in your vehicle with you all times in case there were some kind of emergency and you needed special supplies. Perhaps for me, coming home from work sometime, if there were car trouble or if there was an emergency like an overturned truck or something like that on the way, I would have some supplies that would allow me to get home from that location. Also, between the trip from our home in town and coming out to the cabin area, if we were to break down or have other issues that came up, we would have supplies that would help us to manage until we could get to one of our normal homes. So we're going to show you a few things that we've put in our bag that are useful to us in Central Florida. We understand in other parts of the country you're going to have different needs, especially depending on the different seasons. But let us show you a few things that we think are valuable to us, maybe even some stories of how we've had to use them in the past. In a potential situation where I were coming home from work and had some kind of car trouble or something like that, one of the things to keep in mind for me is to have a spare pair of shoes and socks in the vehicle, because maybe I wore sandals or something lightweight to work that won't help me keep from getting blisters if I have to take a long hike. So always in the car, I have a pair of walking shoes and a spare pair of socks in my get-home bag, so that no matter what I started out the day in, I would have something comfortable to be able to get back home or back to a place of safety. Another thing that's very important, especially for us in Central Florida, but maybe in other places too, is to have some way to get water. If I were to have to walk home in the heat of the summer, I need to always have some bottled water in my vehicle with me. And then we also have packed a life straw, so that if we need to get water out of a ditch or something like that probably wasn't super clean, I would be able to filter the water to purity levels. Or I have a metal cup if I needed to heat water that I had procured someplace. I would be able to put this over a fire, and then also one other container to hold water in case for some reason this was a long-term problem and I needed to refresh my water supplies along the way. So these are just a few things that will help me with the water issue. Kevin's going to talk about some other items that are in our get-home bags.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about some more of the items in our get-home bag today. One of the items that we like to keep in there is a flashlight. Just a small flashlight like this works perfect. You just need to throw that in the bag. It's real small, easy, compact, easy to keep in the bag. Doesn't get in the way, take up a lot of room. So that's a good item to have. This is another type of flashlight that we have, and it does two different things. It shines out from the front and also on here. So if you needed to have something to sit on a table or something and have maybe something to read by or look at something, or a map or whatever, you'd have that, and that works out pretty well too. Another thing that I usually always have with me is a knife of some kind. This one happens to be a folding knife. I usually keep this in my pocket, and we keep one in the bag as well in the cars and the vehicles, so that we always have some type of a knife with us. It's always better if you've got a full tang knife, but if a folding knife is all you have, then that's the knife you need. We have a saying that we like to go by, 2 is 1 and 1 is none, which means if you've got one knife, something happens to it, then you don't have one at all. So if you have 2 and you've got one for a backup, that's a good thing. Another thing we use is matches. We keep these. These are waterproof matches. You can use these to start a fire or to heat water or something like that. Also, we have a lighter, just a regular Bic lighter. And again, we have different things here that we use for fire starters. And here's another one. It's a fire starter. It's a magnesium block. You just shave some of this off with your knife and then use the rod on the side just to strike it to make a fire. There again, we have 3 different ways of starting a fire. We always like to have 3 ways to start a fire rather than just to have one. If one fails, then you've got something for a backup. This is a little waterproof container that you can get to put matches in, and it will keep your matches dry. It has a little rubber seal in the top, and it'll keep your stuff dry. And you can also stuff some char cloth or some little pieces of straw or whatever you need to start a fire down inside there. This right here is cotton balls that we soaked in petroleum jelly. These are very flammable, and they come in quite handy. We just use an empty pill bottle. Mix these up with some the Vaseline or whatever you have that's flammable, and stuff it down inside the bottle, and there you go. You've got it. It's good to go whenever you need it. So anyway, so this is just a few of the items that we have. There are other things that we put in the bag and keep with us.
Get home bag is similar in some ways to a go bag, but the go bag that we have packed is a lot more extensive. So these things just stay in the car with me all the time. One thing that is in here are a couple of bandanas, and I've read emails and websites with dozens of uses for bandanas, you know, to keep the wind out or smoke if that's a problem, to filter water, to use as a sling if you hurt your arm in some way or shoulder. Just so many ways that you can use these. For me, even just to keep my hair out of my face. So that's a good thing. I have just a minimal first aid kit in here, but this has come in handy. A couple of times I've needed a Band-Aid, and you can just get in here and get a Band-Aid real quick and take care of an injury. Another very important thing is a small roll of toilet paper, and there's some dry wipes, and also, or some wet wipes I guess they're called, and I also have a plastic bag, a garbage bag in here, just smashed up. It doesn't take up much room or space or even weight at all, but in a situation you might need that for something waterproof, you might need that to carry items or something like that. It's been suggested that you carry a small amount of cash, and so we have some small bills just to get gas maybe sometime, or to some small change if you could find a payphone that you could maybe be able to make a call or make a purchase from a vending machine. So those things could be helpful in a situation. And one other thing that's been advised very often is to have a whistle with you, because the whistle can be heard from longer distances. You can blow a whistle for a longer time than you can holler or scream if someone's looking for you. And the whistle sound is different to people who are searching for you than other noises. They would be more attuned to this. So that's something that I always like to have available, so that if I had to grab this and go for safety or to get away from a fire or something like that, I would be able to have this whistle and be found faster. There you go.
Okay, this is Kevin. We're back with the next segment of this. Show you a few more things that we have in our bags. This is a roll of duct tape. We keep a roll of duct tape with us at all times pretty much, because you can use duct tape for so many things. We keep them in Ziploc bags just to keep them from getting wet in case our bag happens to get soaked. If we're in a rainstorm or something like that, then everything doesn't get wet. You can use duct tape for a whole lot of different purposes. The glue on the duct tape is very flammable, so it can be used as a fire starter as a last resort if that's what you need. Another thing that we keep is, here in Florida, we keep a bag of hard candy. We've found that we can't really put food products in our bags because they just don't last in the Florida heat. So what we have done is we've put hard candy in here, and again it's in a Ziploc, and so if you happen to be out walking for a long distance or something like that, it just gives you something to keep your mouth wet and keep you from getting dehydrated and that sort of thing. So that's a good item to have. Another good item that we like to have is a paracord bracelet. I happen to make these, and so I have several of them, but there's about 16 feet of cord in this bracelet. So if you were in an emergency situation and you needed something like this, you could just pull this apart, untie this, and you've got cord that you can use. In the meantime, you've got it around your wrist like this, and it just looks like a regular bracelet. So that's another good thing that we like to keep in our vehicles at all times. So this is just a few of the things that we have found that we like to keep that are what we call necessities, basics and that sort of thing, and we keep in the vehicles all the time. So, if you have questions or anything like that, just feel free to ask us. And until next time, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe in the lower corner down there, and leave us comments, please, because we like comments. Until next time, thanks for joining us.